Hi, good morning. I'm Gary Capers, Division President of Cloud Solutions for Deluxe. And this morning I am happy to be joined by Amanda Brinkman. And also want to say thank you to Fintech South for this opportunity to do a deep dive into the small business economy. So before we get started, I'd love for Amanda to introduce herself. And I will just set this up by saying I love speaking with Amanda and learning from her each time I get the opportunity to do so, and hope everyone that's attending gets the same privileges as I do. So Amanda?
Oh, thank you. What a kind introduction, Gary. I love speaking with you too. My name is Amanda Brinkman, and I'm the Chief Brand Officer at Deluxe. And in my role, I host and produce our original series called The Small Business Revolution, which I think will be part of the basis of some of the things we're going to talk about today. And I'm also honored to be here and want to thank Fintech South for setting up this great conference. So many great tracks and speakers, and we're excited to talk about the small business impact, or the impact on small businesses during this unprecedented year.
Well, great. I've got some questions that I actually formed, Amanda, that I'd love to maybe walk through with you during this conversation, but also want to welcome the audience if there are any questions or any areas of interest to also propose those, and we'll see if we can weave those into the conversation over the next, call it 20 minutes or so, if that works.
Absolutely.
All right. So first, Deluxe produces a series, Small Business Revolution, which I know is your brainchild, and it is a great production. So I'd love for you to provide the audience with a quick overview of the series and its objectives for the community as well as for Deluxe.
Yeah, so the Small Business Revolution is an original series where each season we revitalize a different small town's main street through its small businesses. So each episode is about an individual small business. We walk alongside the small businesses and help them with things like marketing makeovers, financial advice, operational efficiencies. But really the thesis of the show and what we're trying to really prove is that if you have a strong small business core, that an entire town and community can thrive. And so, Deluxe works with nearly 5 million small businesses across the country on everything from websites to payroll, to promo and apparel, email marketing, everything. And what we love is that small businesses really care about their communities and give back in disproportionate ways. And so a huge part of the series is about doing that storytelling about the individual small businesses. It's really more than a show. It was always intended to create a movement. We really felt like by telling the stories of small businesses and showing what it's like to be them, what their opportunities are, what their challenges are, how involved they are in their community and how they care about their business, that hopefully we could inspire more people to understand the importance of supporting the small businesses within their towns and neighborhoods. And so Deluxe does it because we truly love supporting businesses of all sizes, and we do it because we believe that if we champion businesses, that entire communities will thrive. And so this is a great way for us to demonstrate that brand purpose and turn it into actual brand action. So going out and truly helping these small businesses. So we're in our 5th season of the show. It's on Hulu, Prime Video, and it streams online at smallbusinessrevolution.org or on deluxe.com. And it's just really a beautiful storytelling. It's shot documentary style in order to really allow for these small business stories to be front and center. And we love that you can, small business can learn from the series, but they get inspired by it. And it's just a heartwarming kind of makeover show done with heart.
Well, thank you. And I know you mentioned the impact that the small businesses have on their communities, their towns, but of course, all of us are dealing with COVID, and of course, the small businesses have been impacted. So, with that, what are some of the challenges, especially as you've been able to be very intimate with a number of small businesses, that you've heard them articulate as the challenges that they face that are unique or unprecedented because of COVID and because of this very unique time?
Yeah, the first thing is that I think a lot of small businesses realize how short they were on cash and access to capital and funding. And so, in the first few months when COVID hit and the pandemic was starting to become aware how serious it was going to be. Even in those first few months, small businesses were very aware of how little kind of cash flow or room they had to breathe. And then as it started to become very apparent that this is going to be, certainly more than just a few months, maybe as much as a year or a year and a half, I think businesses have been scrambling to really figure out their business model. And I think if a crisis like this ever hits again, I think a lot of small businesses will make sure that they have much more cash on hand to survive something like this. So the first issue was just kind of cash on hand to continue to keep the lights on and to continue to pay rent and all of the ongoing operational expenses of a restaurant or of a business. And the second thing that businesses really noticed is that, you know, they had maybe been neglecting the online presence and hadn't, you know, maybe they had a website, maybe they didn't, but they certainly maybe weren't leaning into an e-commerce experience or thinking through things like their cart experience. And I think it became very apparent that right now your website, your online presence is your storefront. Your digital storefront really, really matters right now, and communicating with your customers is key. And so I think they're really realizing that. And then the third thing that I think they're realizing is what we'll put in the camp of kind of that silver lining of this particular year is that small businesses are really recognizing how much the public understands disproportionately this crisis is hitting small businesses, and people really want to support the small businesses. And so I think it's really heartened a lot of the small businesses to see how their community is trying really hard to support them. And so in turn, it's really up to the small businesses to make that as easy as possible, because people really do have the heart for wanting to help small businesses survive this.
Yeah, great. I would have to say, you know, this is providing me with a great alibi to wear, as I say, a collared shirt, which is something that I haven't had to do very often. So as I think about just, you know, my own community, you know, my cleaners is someone who, of course, would see me probably every other week. And since the pandemic, be fair, maybe once every couple of months. So I can only appreciate the challenges that they've been facing. But as you think about some of the small businesses with whom you've interacted, some of the advice you've been providing, you know, is there some insight that you can share into the small businesses that have been successfully overcoming these challenges? You know, what did they do right, or at least when compared to others, what do they seem to be doing better?
The small businesses that are not just surviving this, but to some degree, or certainly 2020 definitions, thriving during this is those who were able to really figure out, obviously, how to pivot their business model, but also how to really communicate with their customers. Again, as I mentioned, people really want to support small businesses, and so it's really up to the entrepreneurs to make sure that they're being as clear and consistent across all of their online properties and every communication vehicle that they have with their customers, to be clear about whether or not they're open or closed, if they're in a hybrid model, how you continue to support or operate with them. But the businesses that we've seen that have really responded are either the ones that already had a technology underbed to their business, or were able to stand up an e-commerce solution quite quickly. You don't have to have a really, really robust e-commerce cart solution right away, but it's something that you should definitely make it easy for people to buy from you on an online environment. And I think what we've seen is that the businesses that recognize that this is something that businesses probably needed already, but this pandemic has just really fast forwarded that need and made it much more apparent and urgent. What we've also seen businesses do is really just figure out, you know, if we go to the core of what we offer as a business, how can we change the way in which we deliver that service or that product, and have been really creative about how they have pivoted that. So in season 5, one of the businesses that we're working with is Omnam. It's a gluten-free bakery, and not only do they want to, you know, continue to operate as a bakery, but they have their customer base has dietary needs to get their hands on their baked goods and their food. And so they right away, just the owner pivoted to doing kind of porch pickup of boxed items. So she right away thought through her menu, she thought through her most popular items, and kind of created these packages. And then Deluxe actually worked with her to stand up an e-commerce solution quickly in 2 days, actually, so that people could order these boxes in order to continue to meet those dietary needs, but also really be creative about her business model. So instead of just thinking about one scone at a time, she was kind of packaging them, and it allowed her to also start to pursue wholesale relationships. There's restaurants within Fredonia, New York, which is where the town we're working with in season 5, as restaurants were starting to reopen in whatever fashion and model they were. She was able to start developing these wholesale relationships, which allowed for her to have reliable revenue sources and predictable income, as well as doing this porch pickup piece with individual consumers. So we've just really seen small businesses thinking through, what is this core piece that I deliver and that my business is known for, that I have the capability to do, and how do I just get creative about how I get it to people, and also then how am I communicating with them about it.
Great. Now that think the success stories that you're creating with Small Business Revolution are amazing. And it's great to hear in this example how you're supporting, this gluten-free bakery and helping really that small business owner think about her business differently and the impact that it can have to the broader community and, finding success in doing that. So you have the ability to, through the series, touch a number of small businesses, but as you might imagine, there are a number out there who may not be profiled on Small Business Revolution, but are looking for, advice and ideas to help them succeed through this pandemic and beyond. So, what is it that you and SBR are doing to help those other businesses, and how can they benefit from what you're doing with those that you're able to be hands-on with through the production process?
Well, what we love about the Small Business Revolution is while we get to work intimately with, the 6 or 7 businesses that we're working with that particular season, what we're really demonstrating through the series is products and services that Deluxe does every day for small businesses across the country. And so while it's a really great way to showcase why a great website, or why thinking through your SEO strategy, or why, branding your promo and apparel makes sense from a marketing perspective, while it is great to set that up within the series and within the show. Those are all products and services that Deluxe does every day. And so Deluxe has done a great job of setting up a really robust kind of COVID response site with a lot of great advice that talks about the importance of communicating, how to change some of your marketing pieces, how to think through things operationally. And so I really think it's about for us, the show is a really great way for us to demonstrate that specifically within the framing of a particular story of a small business, and to show it almost in case study format, why and how a website all through a business can make sense. But what we love is that this is what Deluxe does every day. And so that's what we're doing as a whole, as a company, is really trying to support small businesses and help them survive this time.
I know you've mentioned, being online and websites a few times, and I think some of us would be, maybe a bit surprised regarding the number of small businesses that may not have that online presence, but some of them may be using social media and other types of, if you will, ways to reach not only their customers, but also the broader market, the prospects that they may want to convert to customers. So as you think about those customers, those small businesses that don't have websites, but may be relying on other means, and especially in the context now of a lot of the interactions and transactions being done remotely, and so the need to, as an example, transact and have online commerce capabilities. What is it that you want small businesses to understand and to hopefully embrace when it comes to e-commerce and ways to more efficiently transact and interact online, not only during the pandemic, but especially if some of the behaviors of consumers, are sort of set and don't change coming out of this. How should small businesses start to embrace that new technology, that new way of interacting and transacting?
I need to embrace it right away. So, having a really strong online presence is something that we have advocated for all along since the advent of the internet. I mean, what it really did was it leveled the playing field for small businesses. I mean, you can show up big online. It used to be, decades ago, that you had to save up for a brick and mortar store. You had to have all this capital to start a business. Now, with the technology and the internet and the reach that you're able to get, if you're, leaning into the right strategies from a search engine optimization perspective and from a communication perspective, you can compete online. And so what we have found is that this is just, again, really fast forwarded that. So to your point, 50% of businesses in 2020 still do not have a website. And I think this is really just showcased for small business real quickly why that is so important. As I mentioned before, this is their storefront for the foreseeable future. Even if they're open in some sort of hybrid way, people still need to be able to communicate or interact with them online. People are doing research about which businesses are open, what products or services, what are the safety protocols, what is the interaction I'm going to have with that business, or the process of working with that business. So your website is a really important way to do it. But the number one reason why you need to have a great website is so that you're findable online. To not have a website or to not be consistent about your communication or your digital footprint is as silly as having a brick and mortar store and not putting a sign on the front door. People can't find you if you don't have an online presence. And search is the name of the game. It's 79% of the way people find businesses or products or services is through a search engine. They either will Google a question or they'll search for a term, and that's how they're finding businesses. But if you don't have a website, and or if your website is not consistent with your directories and your listings and your social media profiles, the search engines will penalize you for that. And in reverse, they will reward you if those things are consistent. And so having a website is key so that people can find you. And then once you have the website, the way you build it out is how you really work with search engines to make sure that you're showing up higher in the search rankings. So thinking through things like your keywords within the site, your page titles, your metadata, I could go on and on, but making sure that your website has all of that information so that when search engines are crawling and trying to return great results to the consumer, that your website is registering for that search engine and you're showing up higher. And then especially in these times when not every business is open in the same model, it varies by industry, it varies by county. You really want to make sure that your hours and and how you're asking consumers to interact with you is consistent, again, across those three sources, because search engines triangulate that data. So they're going to look at your website, they're going to look at what you're saying in social media, and then they're going to look at if you've claimed your directories and your listings, and if those hours are consistent, if the address is consistent, if the contact information is consistent. And so minding your online presence is always important for small business, but it could not be more vital right now.
No, thank you for that feedback. So if I sort of take away that soundbite, it sounds as if the website is one element, but there are other social and remote or online communication tools that are needed. And not only then to communicate, as an example, if I'm a restaurant, my menu, but also then if I may have certain safety protocols, if my hours may have been impacted, all the types of things that help my customers and those who may be finding me for the first time understand better how to engage and interact and what the experience should be that they expect, whether it be through the online or through my brick and mortar, where I'm hoping I get some foot traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think safety is new luxury, like in terms of a small business experience, when you think about the customer experience. And so despite someone's personal or political views around any sort of protocols, you have to design your experience to be as safe as possible for customers and for your employees. And if you're already taking those steps, you want to make sure you're communicating about that. People are doing the research to find out, okay, if I'm going to go do a curbside pickup of a growler at this local brewery, what is the process? Where am I going to park? Do I call someone? And then if you already have a process around it, make sure you're communicating that to your customers, because you have to design it for the most conservative and safe of customers so that they feel comfortable, and then you'll catch everybody else in that same net. But making sure that you have a banner at the very top of your website that talks about your COVID protocols and your safety precautions, and really just leveraging that. Again, safety is the new luxury. And so we want to make sure that people are really understanding the steps that you're going through to keep your customers safe as well as your employees.
Great, thank you. Let me ask you, are there any other recommended actions that you could provide to small businesses who continue to battle the current challenges that have emerged during the pandemic, and/or one of the things that we really want to start thinking about is sort of this transition out and what that process and experience looks like? Any advice that you might provide to small businesses who are really thinking about how we transition into what honestly is probably going to be a new normal?
Yeah, certainly thinking through how you thin out your business model to be focused on the core pieces that are driving revenue, that are reliable, that have the least amount of overhead to operate. So really just trying to make sure that you are doing exactly what you're good at and that makes you money, so that you can reduce your overhead costs and your inventory costs and just really focus on that. We're seeing restaurants do that, limited menus, things like that. So first and foremost, thinking through how to just make sure I operate the most efficient business as possible during this time. Second is really how are you implementing those safe protocols to keep you and your employees and your customers safe. The worst thing that can happen to one of the things that can happen to a business right now is if an employee contracts COVID, or if a customer does, it means you have to shut down your business for an extended amount of time, and that has huge revenue implications as well as reputational risk. So really making sure that safety is a priority. And then the third thing is really, going back to the source. Like, I always say to small businesses, like, you started this business because you have a passion for something, because you have that entrepreneurial drive that just makes you a person who wants to create and wants to iterate and optimize. This is just baked into the entrepreneurial spirit, this need to continue to evolve and change and respond to customer feedback. And while this is an incredibly, again, unprecedented, but crazy pressure that's on the business, just go back to those roots of your creativity and your ingenuity and your tenacity, and know that you are capable of figuring this out and get to the other side of it. So between the operational efficiencies, safety protocols, certainly, as we've talked at great length, making sure that your online presence is on point, but just really trusting yourself and your instincts, that this is a time, it might be a forced need to evolve your business, but this is what you do. In business, there is no end zone, there is no goal line. It's always moving, and this is just an incredibly different kind of set of circumstances, but it go back to that same place of ingenuity and creativity that you started your business with originally.
Great. I know we're almost out of time, but if I can, and in some ways to also, give you a quick chance to remind everyone, for those small businesses that may be, again, experiencing challenges, and or for individuals that might be thinking about starting a small business, what again are some of those resources that you would point them to based on, your experience, the small business revolution, and what that's been able to create, and or just based on your own, if you will, broad network? What are the things that the small business owners and or those entrepreneurs should be thinking about and really leveraging right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Deluxe has a whole variety of resources around starting a business, things to think through, both a kind of a COVID relief ideas, but also, again, just kind of those basics of building a business. I think there are other great organizations out there too that provide those services, like SCORE. Really looking into kind of your local resources. If you have a local chamber of commerce or a business association, they're really built to try and help you not only start your business, but be successful. They want the small business core to be successful. And then thank you for the opportunity to plug the small business revolution again. But we really do feel like the show is a great demonstration of not just inspiring people around supporting small businesses, but our favorite thing that we hear from small businesses is that while they were very entertained by the show, they couldn't take notes fast enough, and that they learned a lot about things that they apply to their business. So we certainly encourage people to check out the show. Again, it's on Hulu or Prime Video, or it streams online at smallbusinessrevolution.org. And season 5 will very much be about businesses going through COVID. At the very beginning of filming this year, it was before the pandemic had hit. And so we had captured some of the initial scenes that way. And then we were able to be very creative and pivot of how we captured the show during this kind of lockdown period. And we're excited to release it in the fall and really use it as an opportunity to show small businesses how they can continue to fight through this crisis and get creative about their business.
Thank you. Well, Amanda, just looking, I think we're almost out of time, but as always, want to thank you for spending this time with me this morning. I know I learned quite a bit, and I don't see any questions coming in from the audience. So I'm assuming, again, you did a great job of imparting information to help those who are currently in the small business space, or just, looking to understand more about how they can help, or possibly looking, as a entry point or a venture that they may want to start. So thank you for sharing your own personal advice. Thank you for continuing to help and really, do all that we can from Deluxe perspective to support small businesses and their communities. And would love to, to allow you to say any last words if you have any.
Well, again, I would just encourage small business owners and entrepreneurs that, you've got this. Like, this is the craziest year for so many reasons. And I would just go back to that. It's like, you did not start your business from a place of weakness. You started from a place of strength. And this will be one of the hardest years of running your business. but if you can survive this, you can survive anything. And so we love the entrepreneurial spirit. We love that entrepreneurs of any group are capable of moving quickly and pivoting their business. They don't have to have big board discussions about it. You can just make these decisions and move your business. And so I would just encourage the small businesses that people want to support you. They recognize the importance. So let's just make it as easy as possible for them to do that.
Okay. Well, to the audience, thank you for allowing us to join you today, and for Fintech South, thank you for creating this opportunity for this conversation, and hopefully to share information around the small business economy. And to everyone involved, good luck for the rest of the conference.